Good evening, everyone. You've reached us. We're back. We're loving life. It's TradeBlocked, brought to you by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Dustin. You can find me at FF Dusty Dog. You can find the artist formerly known as Hoov next to me on the screen here at HoovTube. And then we've got special guest filling in the one and only other Dustin, known on this podcast at the Done It 13. Welcome to the show, Dustin. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's an all Wisconsin show tonight. So I'm happy
Yes,
when Hoov
sir.
texted me this morning, said, "Hey, can you jump in?" I said, "Sure can."
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I
miss
love
you,
it.
Joel.
Love it.
We miss you. The whole squads that hasn't been together in a few weeks. I mean, I was gone in Canton. We were together last week, but we got to get back in rhythm. But we miss you in the meantime. We're happy to have you, Dustin. But obviously, you guys can see that I look a little different from last week, just a little bit. But the reasoning why is because a part of the Pros with Joe's charity league that I'm participating in, I said last Friday that if we hit over $100 that night, that I would do a Fu Manchu until Aaron Rodgers, my MVP pick, and the Jets lose their first game. So we'd actually hit our goal, and that's been an awesome high. We've been riding $155 currently going towards Alzheimer's Association and Al's. So that feels great. Even though I look a little silly in the meantime, it's for a great cause. And so if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys go ahead and buy an entry. It's $1 an entry. The Pros with Joe's is in my bio at the website. Go ahead and sign up there, and come try to co-manage a league with your boy Hoov. In the meantime, I look like an international harvester.
We were saying before the show, you're one of the few people that can pull it off. So I think it looks good.
That's a big compliment, because there's a few things like with being like the fashion guy in the industry, I've realized I can't rock. And so I'm glad Fu Manchu is not on that list, but like cheetah print, that's on there. Like rhinestones used to be on it, but like it depends on like how you rock the rhinestones for sure. Feathers is on there. I can't do feathers, but Fu Manchu is not on there. So this is a win. Right. This is a big win.
That's right. I'm glad it's for a good cause, and you're not just going through some sort of midlife crisis or something here where you just
it's a quarter life
off
crisis.
The handle decided to shave. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I think more of myself mid-age.
Yeah,
so
he's a young.
My apologies. Didn't.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. Offense. All right, we're gonna drop a few of those in tonight. A few.
Oh, we have to.
Hoov Hogan.
But yeah. Hoov Hogan, love it. Yeah, we've got a great show. We're doing a double feature this evening. We're talking the Titans backfield, little Tony Pollard, little Tyjae Spears. But before we get into any of that, we've got to talk about one of our sponsors here this evening, and that's Trophy Smack. We're honored to talk about our sister site's new partnership with Trophy Smack. Head over to trophysmack.com/WOFF and start shopping for all your achievement-based wants and needs. Do you need a draft board for your league's offline draft? Do you need to get yourself a championship belt to bask in the rain as your league champion? How about a decorative ring to remind your league mates who the real champion is? Trophy Smack has it all. So head over to trophysmack.com/WOFF and get your gear today. And a friendly reminder that any commissions we earn through the month of August from you lovely lot out there using our unique link will be added into the Women of Fantasy Football's WOFF/Galvanize Scholarship Fund, benefiting Laura Oakman's Galvanize, an organization that offers women the tools to succeed in sports media. You can find the links in the description that will take you directly to Trophy Smack and some of their products. Shop for the cause today. Go check it out. They got great products, high quality.
I don't know if you saw what they got yet, but they got a Jalen Hurts jersey now. They just got rid of the Sam Laporta and the Monroe one, so they're giving that out tomorrow, I believe, for tonight on the show. So make sure you guys tune in later on tonight. But now they got a Jalen Hurts jersey, and they even got a Jason Kelce, Kelly Green. So all the Eagles fans out there, make sure you guys go ahead and sign up. $5 a raffle ticket. It's for a great cause, much like the stash.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we do here at Club Fantasy and Women of Fantasy. We're all about good causes. So let's continue some women in the sports industry, baby.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
So let's get into this, shall we? Because I think this could be a fairly polarizing episode here, considering we're talking about an entire backfield instead of just one player. Let's talk value, current value here on Dynasty Nerds. We'll start with Tony Pollard. So Tony Pollard is currently RB29 over on Dynasty Nerds. Overall 107 in a single QB league and overall 121 Superflex. So Hoov, do you feel like this is some appropriate value for Pollard? What are your thoughts?
I can get down with this. I feel like it was a little bit lower than what I was expecting when checking it today, but low key, I think I can get down with it at RB29. Once we start looking at some players that are around his value, I think that it's going to be an easier indicator on whether I'm going to be drafting him at that price. But if you can get Tony Pollard at RB29, obviously he's going at RB24 on sleeper, but if he slides a few picks down and there's a few guys in redraft this year, that might be enticing, even though I'm a Tyjae Spears guy.
Yeah. What about you, Dustin?
Well, let me tell you something there, brother. The disrespect for Tony Pollard has gone way too far. Tony Pollard should be going as RB20, maybe even RB15. He's going to take over that backfield. This Tyjae Spears hype has gotten out of control. Let's just face it. Tony Pollard is going to be a sleeper at this pick of 29. I will take him all day, every day. You're getting great value. You're getting a guy that's going to be the bulk of the carries. This is not a split backfield. This is Tony Pollard's backfield. Tyjae Spears is a give Tony Pollard a breather guy. That's all he is. I think Tony Pollard should be going above top 20 in the running backs, and he's going as running back 29. Huge value there.
Ooh.
There's truth to that. There's truth to that, but we'll talk more about that later. But there's truth to that. Like, he's the guy to give him a break, but how productive is he going to be in those opportunities that he gets? That's the debate. And I feel like that's the debate that everyone's been having. That's why everyone's here tonight. Dustin, can you break the tie?
I'm more in the Spears camp than the Pollard camp. I'm not going to lie.
Not mad. I'm just disappointed
for it. Well, that's not the first time someone's been disappointed in me, so that's okay. I'm used to it. And I think it's. I mean, they signed Pollard over for a decent contract. It wasn't the high end running back free agent contract, but it was a decent one. And I know he had a down year from what the fantasy analysts were all expecting. He still had an okay year, but from what we saw out of Spears last year and kind of limited opportunities, now that Derrick Henry's gone, in my opinion, Pollard and Spears are they got a similar skill set. So I think they're going to lean more on the guy that they drafted and kind of invested that capital in. But I mean, they're both real, real close for me. But I think it just edges out to Spears for me.
I'm just like itching to say it now at this point. Like, because if you talk about, we're going to compare them to other backfields. I'm going to compare them to Washington this year. I'm going to compare them to Carolina last year. To me, it feels very similar to Miles Sanders signing in Carolina, is that he got this big contract to go there. And then there's another guy that we saw that he's so explosive with the opportunities that he got, Chuba Hubbard last year, that he's going to be the guy that later on in the season, he does more with those reps. And so even like this year, when you see someone like Washington with like how bad their offensive line is, much like Tennessee, like they're making the right steps, but that's only one tackle that they brought in. They still have another tackle that they definitely need, and probably a guard as well. So they're making the right steps, but still not a great offensive line. And so you're going to need explosivity to overcompensate for that bad blocking, for the opportunities that you're going to get. So like guys like Tyjae Spears, I'd rather have him over Tony Pollard. Guys like, even though Austin Eckler, you can see that he's missed a step with his explosivity, he also was a little hurt. So I'll give him that, but I'm not as in love with Eckler as I am with like Tyjae Spears, with what I think he could do. So that's just like the best comp I can get. I'm not saying he's going to fall off as bad as Boobie Sanders did, but there is a similarity to that. And you're seeing a bad offense. I mean, Carolina even had a better offensive line than than what both of these guys had now. So I'm very cautious when it comes to Tony Pollard, especially with other guys that easily could outproduce their ADP as well. But at 29, shit, that's not bad for someone that's going to get all these opportunities. So,
yeah. And my mantra kind of this entire offseason here is I'll take the guy as long as both of them don't creep up too high in ADP.
Sure.
I'll take whichever guy is going to fall to me in drafts. I mean, it's just that simple because I'll just take the value. It's a very ambiguous backfield. We really don't know. Give me the guy that's cheaper only because of that.
Is it though? Is it really that ambiguous?
Sometimes cheaper is better.
Let me ask you guys this question. Are you guys taking Ty Chandler over Aaron Jones?
I don't think Ty Chandler is more explosive. Like,
okay,
if we were going to compare the two, like, I think Aaron Jones is so much better than Tyjae Chandler that Tyjae Spears is to like Tony.
Let's look at it this way. Minnesota signed Aaron Jones, a 1-year, $7 million deal. Tennessee gave gave Pollard a 21 3-year, so $7 million a year, same price per year as Aaron Jones. Tyjae Spears and Ty Chandler had similar carries. Now, Tyjae Spears had more pass catching, but let's just look at carries. Similar yards per carry, almost identical yards per carry as Tyjae Spears and Ty Chandler. So why are we not worried about Ty Chandler taking his load from Aaron Jones if we're worried about Tyjae Spears? When you look at what Brian and Dusty, you brought up that they drafted Tyjae Spears, but Brian Callahan didn't draft him. Brian Callahan went out and signed Tony Pollard. Brian Callahan has always had a one running back system. Look at Joe Mixon, 2023, 251 carries. All three other running backs, 61 carries. 2022, 210 carries, 101 carries. That was Savaje Perine. That's the most the second running back has had in a Brian Callahan system. Now, 2020, 292 for Joe Mixon. 2021, that was 2020, 119. He only played 6 games. Joe Mixon did. Giovanni Bernard had 124. The other guys had 59. 2019, Joe Mixon had 278 carries. The other guys on the team had 53. Brian Callahan has run a one running back system, and I think that's going to be Tony Pollard. And I think because they have similar skill sets, there's no sense to pull Tony Pollard unless he needs a breather. It's not like Tony Pollard can't catch the ball. He's a very good pass catcher. Same skill set as Tyjae Spears. Tyjae Spears is going to come and give him a breather. It's not like they're going to rotate him out. I don't understand why people are buying in Tyjae Spears. We've seen, yes, some explosiveness, but it's not like Tony Pollard isn't explosive. I just don't see the system running this two-headed monster. I don't think it's going to be 50-50. I think it's going to be 80-20, maybe even 90-10 split. I think it's all Tony Pollard. Just looking at what Brian Callahan has done in the past with his running backs, it's a one running back system. A running back like Joe Mixon is just like Tony Pollard, can handle the rock and can pass catch. Paid him similar money. We're not looking at Derrick Henry. We're not worried about the backup in Baltimore taking money, similar contract. We're not worried about Khalil Herbert or Roschon Johnson stealing work from DeAndre Swift, similar contract. So if you follow the money says Tony Pollard's going to be the guy.
I would rebuke you on that. But to answer your original question, I think the stats would show as well that, like, Kevin O'Connell is just not a check down guy with his running backs and whatnot. And if Brian Stefanski is a one running back guy, I think that it would come to the point where talent wise, I think that Tyjae Spears on impact this year, he's going to show by the end of the year that he is more talented than Tony Pollard. And so I think that that's like where he would become the one in that offense. But like, I definitely think that Aaron Jones would be like the one over him. And then even when you're asking like about picking the more explosive guy, look at like Miami. Look at where Devin O'Shane's going right now. He's probably the most explosive guy out of this category. But look at how different the explosive guy in that backfield, Devin O'Shane's being drafted compared to Raheem Mostert. And like, he was obviously extremely like relevant as well. And so you're seeing it even like with like Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. You know, like, people want the more explosive back because they're seeing the upside that comes with it. So like even last year, like the opportunities that AJ Dillon had, like he gets a lot of slack on this podcast, and I feel like a lot of my content and whatnot. But like the opportunities that he got, he just didn't do very much with them. And that's why Aaron Jones just became like the guy for the longest time. And so I think that could be something like that. Tony Pollard, if he doesn't show out enough in those opportunities, then it's going to create too much of an opportunity for Tyjae to come in. But we should probably move on and start breaking down like where we would view him in Dynasty. So 5 running backs currently above Tony Pollard's ranking on Dynasty Nerds: Alvin Kamara at RB24, Jalen Wright at RB25, Joe Mixon at RB26, Derrick Henry at RB27, and Aaron Jones at RB28. Is there any of these guys that you think that you would rather take Tony Pollard over than them currently?
Dustin,
this is a Dynasty perspective. This is strictly from a Dynasty perspective.
Not Aaron Jones. He's only got a 1-year contract. He's probably going to be, looking for a new home after this year. I'll take Jalen Wright. Raheem Mostert's really old. Devin Achane can't stay healthy. So in that system it supports 2 running backs more than what I think, someone else will. So I will take Jalen Wright, but any of those other guys, probably not.
I think I would take every single one of these running backs over Tony Pollard.
You're going to be wrong.
On who?
I'm with Hoov. I'm with you on this one. I would probably take all of them, especially if I'm competing this year in Dynasty. I would want to take any of these guys over Pollard.
I would be shocked if Alvin Kamara does not finish in the top 20 this year. I would be so shocked. I would be shocked if Kamara doesn't, Mixon doesn't, like Derrick Henry. Obviously, he has top 10 upside until the wheels fall off, baby, So I can't really fade Derrick Henry. Like if I was going to look at and think Tony Pollard's done after this year, or Tyjae Spears is going to overlap him, every single one of these guys, I would rather have their impact alone in 2024. If I had to hold on to their asset, like their Dynasty asset. If Derrick Henry retired after this year and he just went on top, I still feel like Derrick Henry would impact more in 2024. And then I could go out on a championship with his upside. So every single one of these guys, I feel like they're going to impact. Jalen Wright, maybe not this year, but there's going to be a few games that you're going to look at Jalen Wright as the long-term Dynasty asset. And
definitely take Derrick Henry this year. Derrick Henry this year should be a top 12 running back. My issue with Derrick Henry is where does he go after this year? Same thing with Aaron Jones. What happens after this year? Are they just, I'll not say wash, but do they struggle? Do they get the Zeke, Leonard Fournette situation where they're older running backs who have produced but are struggling to find a place? When I'm looking at Dynasty, I want someone that's going to produce this year and can produce for the next 2 to 3 years. Tony Pollard is under contract for 3 years, at least this year and next year. They have an out in terms of money. He's only 27 years old. He doesn't have a ton of wear and tear on his tires compared to some of these other backs. I'd be surprised if Tony Pollard finishes below RB15 this year, and I think he'll be similar next year if all things trend the same way. I think Tony Pollard is, as you guys know, super undervalued right now. I think he's going to see 250 plus carries. He's going to see probably 60 to 70 receptions, and he was RB14 last year with 252 carries. I think he easily repeats that. I think he's going to be close to a top 12 running back this year, and Tyjae Spears will be in the 30s or 40s.
Holy crap.
Wow, that is
look at now.
That is
look at now. Tony Pollard, top 15 running back. Tyjae Spears below RB25.
Oh my God.
That is that one out and saving
it.
I'm shaking. Oh, that's hot.
Wow.
All right. Well,
hey, I love the confidence in that, though. I love that confidence.
What are our people in the comment section saying? Gator. What? RB15? No way. Thank you, Gator. If I didn't have big sunglasses on, you'd see how bug-eyed my eyes are right now. I'm like,
there's no reason to take Tony Pollard off the field. What does Tyjae Spears do better than him? He doesn't pass catch better than him. He might be a little more faster and explosive, but why are you going to rotate him out just for that?
To answer your question, that's why he does better.
But that's not something you rotate him in for. You rotate him when Tony Pollard breaks off. Tony Pollard's going to carry the ball on first down, catch the ball on second down, the first down on third down, and then they're going, okay, I've gotten 3 plays in a row. Throw Tyjae Spears out there for a play or two, and then we'll go out. We
are going to be talking after this episode and making a little fun bet between
make a fun bet.
Hoov and Dustin. Okay, so moving on to running backs.
Who's going right after? Yeah.
Below Tony Pollard, we have on Dynasty Nerds, David Montgomery at RB30, Blake Corum at RB31, Nick Chubb, RB32, Jalen Warren at RB33, and Brian Robinson at RB34. So I kind of talked about it earlier, like with Brian Robinson. Like I think that's like the same thing. I think that honestly, it's the youth. Like I think that that's the youthful what you're going to get on a Tony Pollard. And Brian Robinson is not going to win you leagues. He's probably going to get you like 10, 12, and he's going to be very consistent in that. But like, is that going to win you a league? No. You want to win your leagues by having guys with the most upside. And if I came down to Tony Pollard and Brian Robinson, I would take Brian Robinson, but I wouldn't over Tyjae Spears. Just because I think that the short term, Tyjae Spears has more upside now, and Brian Robinson, like, he's going to be a guy that he's going to be a hindrance for a long time on some top tier running backs. Like, let's say next year Washington drafts a high end RB, and they still have Brian Robinson on the roster with Austin Eckler on a 1 year. Okay, Brian Robinson is going to be a hindrance to that RB's like top production. He's just that good. But is he going to be good enough to win you alone? No. So he's like, honestly, like he's what everyone wanted Antonio Gibson to be. Like he could be the hindrance, but just be good enough and like just like be a filler in a 0 RB roster. So Jalen Warren, like whether you're in on him or not, like you just know that Arthur Smith loves to utilize multiple running backs, and whether you're a Najee guy, Jalen Warren's going to see the field and he's going to get opportunities. Not a Blake Corum guy. Nick Chubb in a dynasty. If you had asked me last year, I would have thought Nick Chubb wasn't coming back like to his full self. I'm slowly becoming more optimistic. And if I'm going to say the same thing about Derrick Henry, that I'm just going to have to ride it till the wheels fall off, I got to do the same thing with Nick Chubb. So I think the only person that I think I would take Tony Pollard over currently is Blake Corum. So I think I'd even rank him a little bit lower than some of these guys in Dynasty.
Yeah, Blake Corum is the interesting one. I am in on Blake Corum. I am out on Kyron Williams. I think Blake Corum will be midseason will be the guy. I'm definitely taking Pollard over David Montgomery, who had a good year last year, but I think that continues to trend to Gibbs' role. Nick Chubb, I agree with you, Hoov, that I think you ride him till the wheels come off. Like that injury was so devastating. It's not his first one. I was out on him at the end of the year. I'm curious to see how the looks coming back. Brian Robinson, I think, is a good running back. I agree that he's going to be the thorn in someone's side. He's going to be the future David Montgomery of a Jahmyr Gibbs. That's what he's going to be. He's going to be a solid running back who is there, and you're like, I guess he's good. Like, he's good. He's going to produce, and he's going to split the backfield. He's good enough to warrant a 50-50 split. Now, Jalen Warren's the interesting one. I don't think Najee fits the long-term Steelers plan. So, Dynasty, is Jalen Warren going to be there long-term? I don't know, because his contract will be up in 2 years. So, that's an interesting one. So, I would certainly take probably Blake Corum right now over Tony Pollard, but I'm taking Tony Pollard over everyone else on this list.
Okay. That's quite a take as well, Dustin. Other Dustin. Double
Blake
Dustin.
Corum.
But yeah, I would probably take I would take Montgomery and Corum over Pollard, but that'd be about it on this list.
In Dynasty.
Yep.
Okay. We might have to circle back on this one at the end of the season. I think that would be fun. That would be a fun thing for the trade block. We'll go back on every single asset that we've talked about during the preseason and along the way and see who primarily was more correct between the hosts and guests. Good amount of accountability on us, on the team. So maybe we'll do that every year.
I got to start training now for my victory lap on Tony Pollard at the end of the season. Start running out there, get my miles in.
All right. Nothing's going to ever bring you down. You're the best. Okay,
Top 15. Book it.
That's so wild, Dustin. That's so wild. Why didn't you say that on our trip back to Wisconsin? Man, we could have literally talked about that the whole way.
We were talking about so many other things.
That's true. So let's talk about, we talked about a dynasty value for Tony Pollard. Let's squeeze it in. Let's get 5 running backs above Tony Pollard currently on Sleeper so we can talk about his redraft value. Currently at RB22, So we have DeAndre Swift at RB19, James Conner at James Robinson. Haven't heard that name in a while. James Conner at RB20, David Montgomery at RB21, Ramondre Stevenson at RB22, and Najee Harris at RB23. Any of these guys this year in Sleeper that you would take Tony Pollard over?
Not a single one.
I would take probably everyone. I shouldn't say everyone. Let me start over. My brain, it's been a long day. My apologies. So, the only ones I would take over Pollard are Swift, Connor, and Montgomery. So I'd have him kind of right in the middle of this group.
You have him more at RB22.
Yes.
Okay. Now if you guys can check the tapes, big Ramondre Stevenson guy. I think that out of these, the only thing that like you could like talk me into is if Jahmyr Gibbs is that much more valuable than David Montgomery and he finally makes the leap. But I just don't see that happening. Like, especially now with this lingering injury that's going to start out the year, like David Montgomery is going to get a lot of early season value that's going to raise his ADP next year. And you know the routine. So even like this year, like I think that David Montgomery has so much value. Shane Waldron, I said it in articles, I said it on camera, how many times, like if the Bears start slow and they're battling the Vikings now, I wouldn't say battling the Vikings now at this point, but if they're like very close to the Vikings in third or potentially in last in the division, they're going to start pointing the finger at someone with these 4,000-yard expectations for Caleb Williams. And it's probably going to be Shane Waldron before it becomes Matt Eberflus problem in the offseason. So, like, you know that Shane Waldron likes to use, like, one RB. Otherwise, he would have used Zach Charbonnet last year. So, I think that's why they got DeAndre Swift is for Shane Waldron to pound the rock and, like, to use him primarily. But if Shane Waldron's out the door, that's going to open the Rashawn Johnson door, Khalil Herbert, so many other ones. Yeah. Like, it definitely could be more of a split backfield. So, like, there's all these guys, like, this year alone, extremely valuable at their ADPs. Definitely would like to have a few more shares of them. But people are too smart, man. People are too smart. Yeah. So, let's talk about 5 guys underneath Tony Pollard currently on Sleeper. Raheem Mostert at RB25, Zamir White at RB26, Nick Chubb at RB27, Javonte Williams at RB28, and Zach Moss at RB29. Any of these guys that you would have over Tony Pollard?
Javonte for me is the only one. I think this is still the discounted price of Javonte being, possibly getting cut. The rumors we heard a couple weeks ago, Javante's locked in as their starter. He's going to be the guy. He's the guy I would take over Tony Pollard, but I'm not taking the rest of them over Tony Pollard.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know that I could take anybody on this list over Pollard personally. I just maybe Mostert because he's got that kind of week winning potential upside to him, where he could get you 30 points, but you don't know when that's going to happen either. I do think Pollard will probably give you a little bit safer floor than that this year. So it really depends on how you like to play the game. If you're high risk, high reward guy, but it would probably be Pollard over all these guys, but it's really close with Mostert there.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. All right, there's 2. That's number 2 for the episode. I ran into someone at the expo, not Andre the Giant, but probably as big as him. Big disco energy, big draft energy. And he's preaching Zamir White, potential top 5 upside. And if I'm anything, cool. I'm someone that could jump on a bandwagon. And I think I'm here for it. I'm not here for top 5. That's as wild as Tony Pollard top 15. That's a little wild, but I see the upside. I see so much upside in Zamir White that I definitely would take Zamir White over Tony Pollard. I'm going to be a little bit of a hypocrite because I talked about Nick Chubb until the wheels fall off, baby. But like with Tony Pollard versus Tyjae, like I've said, I think Tyjae is like so much more competition. Like he's so much competitive compared to Tony Pollard that he's going to end up taking over the role. Jerome Ford should not be slept on this year. Mm-hmm. And so like if we were looking at like what they're going to produce this year alone. Like if Nick Chubb's not 100% healthy and he's like not there, like obviously like you'd rather have Tony Pollard, but Jerome Ford's a dog and he's going to produce heavily this season. So this season alone, I think I'd rather have Tony Pollard, but in Dynasty, I think I'd maybe just like rather take the chance of Nick Chubb's upside. But this year alone, it's hard to buy in after that injury.
I completely agree. I'm worried that Nick Chubb won't come back until week 5, 6, and that just limits his upside for the season this year.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
So, Dustin, you have anything to add?
No. I said my piece on this guy.
Okay.
Should we move on to Tyjae Spears then?
We should get to the more talented side of the backfield.
That's right.
I know you don't want to hear it, but it's the truth, baby. It's the truth. The TRUTH, baby. The truth.
Chandler, Kenny Gainwell side of the backfield.
Good Lord. Why are we hating? We don't need that. We don't need that energy right now.
Well, that's all he is, man.
Big draft energy right now, baby. All right. So 5 running backs currently above Tyjae Spears' current ranking on Dynasty Nerds. Rachaad White at RB17. Javonte Williams at RB18. Najee Harris at RB19. Ramondre Stevenson at RB20. And Zamir White at RB21. Any of these guys you would take Tyjae Spears over?
The only one I'm taking Tyjae Spears over is Rachaad White. I think Rachaad White is probably done after this year. I think Bucky Irvin supplants him. Rachaad White is just so inefficient on the ground. It's just been a volume play. He can't get away with that for long. Like he's gonna get replaced, and then he could just be a one and done. Like he just might be done after this year. Zamir White probably gets 2 years. Ramondre just signed a big deal. I'll take Spears for the potential upside that, something goes catastrophic with Tony Pollard, but I can't buy Rachaad White over Tyjae Spears in Dynasty right now.
Oof.
This
just
for
spice
me,
flying all over here.
I know.
Raining on your guys' parade left and right.
This for me is a tier where like I think I'm gonna buy into a few of these RBs. Like I don't like to invest heavily in like RBs in a dynasty startup and whatnot. Even like giving a lot of compensation, but Ramondre Stevenson for what he's valued at, like so valuable in my opinion. Javonte, like I'm not a Javonte guy, so it'd be hard, but I think that in Dynasty, I'd rather have all of these guys over Tyjae Spears, just because even though Tyjae's more explosive, that this 2025 class is loaded with RBs, and that easily someone like Tyjae Spears that lacks size, maybe like that's why they did bring Tony Pollard, because they realized he can't carry the full load of like a workhorse, but they bring someone in that maybe could, and that eats up a lot of Tyjae's value in the long haul in Dynasty. So I'm not as big on Tyjae in Dynasty as I am in redraft this season. I could be proven wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the only player that I would have ranked above Tyjae in this tier of guys is Rachaad White. The rest of them, they're fine. They're all kind of lumped in the same tier for me. So I think that's fine. But yeah, I think just sorry, Dustin, but I think you're wrong here on your Rachaad White take.
Tell him.
You want to know another running back that's been super inefficient over his career, but has continued to play and be fantasy relevant. It's the guy you just brought up recently, was Joe Mixon. We know he's wildly inefficient, but he just gets volume. And he's in the top 10 almost every single season. So why can't Rachaad White be the next incarnation of Joe Mixon here that we see for the next 8 years?
He could be, but I think they drafted Bucky Irving too because they realized they can't run. They don't do the volume that Joe Mixon was getting. So,
Hey, Rachaad White, man, get out of here.
Bucky
Rachaad
Irvin's
White to the move, baby.
Right. Mid-season, you won't be able to trade Rachaad White for Bucky Irving.
That's another bet that we will be talking about after the show. 100%. Oh man, Bo has some competition. We got a Spice Prince over here, man. Not the skin like Bo, but he's right on.
Both barrels loaded, ready to roll.
Right.
Jeez,
man. All right, so 5
So-
RBs currently below Tyjae Spears' current ranking on Dynasty Nerds. Marshawn Lloyd, Wisconsin's own. Marshawn Lloyd at RB23, Alvin Kamara at RB24, Jalen Wright at RB25, Joe Mixon at RB26, and Derrick Henry at RB27. Any of these guys you would take over Tyjae Spears currently in Dynasty?
Yeah, I think I'm with you on Derrick Henry that I'm going to ride him till the wheels fall off. It might only be this year and next year. Alvin Kamara, no. I just worry that he's going to lose a step. Jalen Wright, that's a tough one just because I don't know. I think I might take him over Tyjae Spears in Dynasty. Joe Mixon, no. So I'm taking Henry, Jalen Wright. And then the question is, what do I do with the other one, with Marshawn Lloyd, who I like, and I think
No.
Jacobs is really only a 1-year deal. AJ Dillon sucks. I don't know why they re-signed him. He should just be. He should not be in. He should be playing for the CFL. I don't know why he's still in the NFL. I think I'll probably take Marshawn Lloyd over Tyjae Spears this year in Dynasty because I think Lloyd will take over next year.
I'm glad you said that because
I like
I'm
that.
feeling very, very anxious about my share. I have 1 share of Marshawn Lloyd, and I was like, man, if this hits, like my RB room is loaded compared to the rest of this draft, this league. But I'm like slowly getting back onto the Josh Jacobs train very slowly. It honestly could be till like week 4 before I'm like fully there. But I'm seeing it. I'm seeing them want to use Josh Jacobs. And even last year, I remember talking about how there was a reason to think the Packers could have been interested in Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
And everyone thought that was crazy. And then you heard that they were interested in JT. And it's like, that's not that far off. Like they were already looking for someone younger than Aaron Jones, even though Aaron Jones was a very viable option for Green Bay, very home favorite for Packer fans, 100%. So it was a tough decision, but they really wanted Josh Jacobs, and he's the guy that started this whole RB market. Or was it Saquon and then Josh Jacobs, I believe? But he's like he's the guy that really kind of started it all, for these contracts and whatnot. So, like how the Bears went out and sought out DeAndre Swift, like. I think that kind of shows that it's what Matt LaFleur is like trying to build, and he really will utilize Josh Jacobs until there's an obvious need. But the fumbling issue with Marshawn Lloyd has been like a thing that I don't think that the Packers and Matt LaFleur are going to appreciate a fumbling running back. And if he starts fumbling early, I mean, you saw it with people like MVS and the drops, like Packer fans remember stuff. They will remember that until you are retire or put into the Packer Hall of Fame, whatever. They will remember that Devontae Adams had a problem with drops at the start of his career. Like people remember that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a hard thing to overcome if Marshawn Lloyd starts fumbling the ball, but I'm optimistic. I'm slowly getting back on the Josh Jacobs train. But for all these guys, I think that for Dynasty, definitely I'd take Jalen Wright over Tyjae. All these guys, immediate impact. I gotta stand with what I'm saying, but Dustin's got a point. Marshawn Lloyd is probably the most questionable guy. I think I would contemplate Tyjae over.
Yeah, I think I would take all of these guys over Tyjae. Although with Lloyd and Kamara, it's close, and Mixon, like they're all like right there with him. But I, especially for this incoming season with like Mixon and Kamara, I do like them this year and probably next year too. So, but it's close. It's close.
So let's talk about redraft, because this is where my whole thing is with Tyjae Spears. And maybe I can talk Dustin into getting a few years of Tyjae Spears. I don't know. Maybe I will. But currently, 5 RBs above Tyjae Spears' current ranking on Sleeper redraft. Zach Moss, RB 29. Austin Eckler, RB 30. Jonathan Brooks, RB 31. Jalen Warren, RB 32. And Devin Singletary at RB 33. Any of these guys that you would take Tyjae Spears over?
Brooks is the interesting one, who I think is more talented, but the injury and when Brooks will be available for this year is the question mark for me. If you told me Jonathan Brooks is back by week 3, I'm taking him over. If you're telling me Jonathan Brooks is back week 6 or later, I think I lean Spears just because he's the same player as Tony Pollard. If someone happens to Tony Pollard, he can instantly step up and nothing changes, and he can fill that volume role. He can also get the 90% of the carries, and then Julius Chestnut can take the 10% that Tyjae Spears normally has. Brooks he's a much better player. I just don't know if he's going to be around long enough and play enough games for me for this year to produce enough points to pass Tyjae Spears.
That's a good take. That's a damn good take.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin?
Yeah, I would take everyone except the last 2 players here on the list as it's scrolling through. My brain's not working. So it's Jalen Warren and Devin Singletary. I would drop them below. But the rest of those guys, I do like the other 3 above, and I'd put those 3 above Spears for this year.
I would take Tyjae Spears over, like, to Dustin's point, Jonathan Brooks would be a big question mark. I think it's very close. I think Jonathan Brooks went above where I picked Tyjae Spears. I picked Tyjae Spears in Scott Fishbowl over my darling this year, JSN, just because of the rushing upside in Scott Fishbowl. And I think Jonathan Brooks went a few picks before Tyjae. So maybe that's where I was leaning, and I altered to Tyjae Spears. I'm trying to remember, but I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about something that I don't see very often and read about very often. Hype for Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary is probably one of the most consistent RBs at his value. If you wanted to draft an RB that was going to finish right 32, right around this range to be a backup, that's your guy. That's the most consistent pick. I don't know if I'm going to get into Tyrone Tracy. Like he could be someone like a Damian Pierce that just kind of pops off and produces, but Devin Singletary is very consistent. He's not flashy. He's not Joe Mixon, and that's why a contender like the Texans went out and got an impact like Joe Mixon. But Devin Singletary is very consistent at his ranking. And if Tyjae Spears doesn't produce the way that I anticipate him to be, Devin Singletary at this price is a great value.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we talked about 5 RBs above Tyjae Spears. Let's talk about 5 RBs below him currently on Sleeper. Brian Robinson, RB35. Trey Benson, RB36. Gus Edwards, bell cow, potentially, RB37. Ezekiel Elliott, another bell cow, potentially at RB38. And Chase Brown at RB39.
I'm taking them all. I mean, all of them are going to see, they're going to be in. Now, I think Brian Robinson is the leader of the Commanders' backfield. He'll see 70% of the carries. Gus Edwards probably going to see 70% of the carries. Zeke could see 50%, if not more. Chase Brown could see 50% more. Again, I think Tyjae Spears is going to see 10% of the carries this year. So I don't see him producing a ton of value in the thing. So I'll take all these guys who have potential to be bell cows without an injury. Like they could be closer to a 50-50 split than I think Tyjae Spears will ever be.
I'm not going to take any of these guys over Tyjae, but I'm definitely going to take them with the anticipation, hoping that Gus Edwards and Zeke fall back to me in the next round, because their value at where they're going, like people aren't viewing them to where they should be. I was talking to my coworker to this. We did our work draft last night, and he was like, I was contemplating getting Ezekiel Elliott. I'm like, that's not a bad pick by any means where he's going at all. Like he's still a bell cow. I grabbed a share of Rico Dowdle just in case I was wrong. But I mean, another guy that I like, Ramondre Stevenson, and I'm not afraid to tell people that. So when Zeke chips in to someone that I'm big on, you kind of have to still view Zeke as a potential threat, like a Brian Robinson, like we were talking about, that he's still good. Like, he's not the greatest dynasty asset anymore. We get it, but he's still a viable option by every mean, So, yeah, I'm not going to take these guys over, even Gus Edwards, someone that that Harbaugh loves to pound the rock, and he could be extremely utilized this season. Don't think I can take them over Tyjae, but they still are probably going to be very valuable.
Yeah, I think out of this group, the only one that I would take over Tyjae is Chase Brown. Um,
Yeah.
I like that backfield, and I think he could be a sneaky surprise there and end up taking over that backfield. So
Ooh.
I do like his upside, and and I just think that's going to be a much more high-powered offense than what the Titans are going to be. Even though I do like the direction that they're going, they really invested and they do want to become a more pass-heavy, more high-powered offense. So, but I just do like that volume that we'll see in Cincinnati. Um, but the rest of those guys, they're fine, but I guess I just don't see the potential upside in them like I do with Spears or Brown.
Let's go around the room because we're talking about the Titans backfield, just for fun. I'll say a backfield. You tell me who's going to be more productive. Okay. So we'll start. Obviously, it's a Titans episode. We'll go Titans. Let's go Pollard, Spears, Pollard. Correct.
Pollard.
Not
Correct.
not even close. Not
Okay,
even close.
For our guy Jamie in the chat, let's go Washington, Robinson or Eckler.
I'm going Eckler.
Robinson, not even close.
I think I'll go Eckler slightly, but it's very close, just with the explosivity. There's another one that I was thinking of too. Cincinnati. This is another one that's very controversial as well, and this is a very hard one for me too. So honestly, I think you guys might be able to sway me either way because this just isn't a backfield I'm interested in investing in, but there obviously could be a lot of sneaky value, like you guys are saying. Dustin.
Mm-hmm. I'll take Zach Moss. I think it's going to be a 60-40 split.
And you said Chase.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're going with the backfield, I would rather take Zach Moss, but it is pretty close. I was really high on Zach Moss early in the offseason, but as things have kind of gone on, I've gotten more in on Chase, but I still lean Zach Moss, especially after what we saw in that Indianapolis offense last year. Like he was the guy, and he showed out. So just given that, and Cincinnati was the guy that they identified in free agency to bring over, I'm leaning him.
That's another thing. Like I'm saying about Zeke, like if you were like Ramondre Stevenson and you noticed that Zeke was good enough to chip into an RB9 at one point, like then you have to realize that Zeke is not washed. Same thing with Zach Moss. Like Jonathan Taylor, in my opinion, he could finish RB1 this season. Just like with them trying to not put too much on Richardson's plate right away after the injury. So he could have a great year. And Zach Moss chipped in a lot to Jonathan Taylor. So I think if I had to make a pick, I'd go Zach Moss with you guys, but that's where my mind would be in the decision. Just Chase Brown just doesn't do it for me. I don't know. But Jamie, I appreciate your comment. I hope that Dustin is right. All right. So let's get into some trades since this is a trade show for the last 12 minutes or so. If you guys haven't dropped a comment, drop a comment down below for Tyjae Spears or a Tony Pollard trade that you have done or interested in making. And we will break it down for you, let you know if it's even, let you know if you're winning, whatever. All right. So first one, we got a 10-team super flex start 10. We got T. Higgins and Jaden Daniels for Malik Neighbors, a 2026 first, a 2025 second, and Tony Pollard. Once again, T. Higgins and Jaden Daniels for Malik Neighbors, a 2026 first, a 2025 second, and Tony Pollard.
I'll start with this one. Give me Higgins and the Jaden Daniels side. I do love Neighbors a lot. Pollard, he'll be fine, but it's the 26 first. I mean, you're looking at a couple years out for that. While it's still a first, it's a couple years out for me, and I'd rather take the value now than wait 2 years to be able to make that pick.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think if that first was a 25 first, I would lean that side. I think Higgins and Neighbors, in terms of, I'm assuming this is the Dynasty League, are pretty equal. I think if you looked at Neighbors and a second is equal to Higgins for me. the Jaden Daniels in a super flex league is really hard because you're hoping that 26 first can be a quarterback, but there's a possibility that 26 first is a late first and you don't get a top end quarterback. So I'm going to lean the Higgins and Daniels side as well. Again, if that first was a 25 first and I can replace the Jaden Daniels sooner rather than later, and I have a better feel of where that team might land. So if you said, hey, this is from the team that has finished, bottom third the past 2 years, then it might be an early first. 26 is so far out, you can't even project that. So I'll take Higgins and Jaden Daniels right now.
I would agree. And I would definitely, I think the Jaden Daniels value alone, like right now with the top three, I don't know. It'd be hard to get 2 seconds for Drake May right now, but definitely Caleb and Jaden, you can easily get 2 firsts for those guys to a rebuilding team. Yeah. So Malik Neighbors, like I would kind of honestly I'd cancel this trade and counter with what can I do to move from T. Higgins to Malik Neighbors. That would be my best advice for this, because like Jaden Daniels seems so much more valuable. If you really are a Tony Pollard guy, maybe you could talk yourself in like, oh yeah, well I need to rebuild and like I could really use an extra running back for my team. He's only 27, like Dustin was alluding to earlier. You could talk yourself into it, but I think that with the fact that Jaden Daniels is going to be so good right away, in my opinion, that 26 first is definitely going to be a late first. So I agree. Anything else to add before we move on to the next one?
I would say if you want to move T. Higgins and Neighbors, like if you could get Daniels out of the deal, take the 21st, 6 out. If you could get Neighbors that's second and 25 and Pollard for Higgins, I'm okay doing that if you're in a kind of a rebuilding, because then you have Daniels and Neighbors on the same team. You're getting young. Pollard can be serviceable this year, next year, and then maybe you ship him off mid-season next year to get another third. So I think I would do that, but right now you want to hold Daniels in a super flex league.
You're saying T for Neighbors plus?
Yeah, T for Neighbors, second and Pollard, yeah.
Oh baby. Oh, okay. Then we are in 2 different camps, my friend.
T. Higgins is still a top 10 wide receiver. He just is
10,
top 10,
15. You could talk me in 20 confidently. 15 questionable. Malik Neighbors by the end of this year will be a top 12. Top 12, 100%.
Nowhere Neighbors sniffs the top 15 this year.
He doesn't have to productively for fantasy, but if you can watch the eye test and go, that's a top 12 wide receiver by the end of the year.
He's a talented player, but the system matters. He's going to have Daniel Jones throwing him trash all year on a trash offense that can't score points. If you're talking fantasy value, like Higgins is still going to produce top 12, I think top 10 wide receiver numbers, and Malik Neighbors is going to produce in fantasy top 20 below numbers just because he doesn't get the volume of targets, nor are they quality targets on a good offense.
Ooh. I wouldn't sleep on the Giants. That's just not me. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to sleep on the Giants. You guys can all overreact to preseason games, but I'm not doing it. I ain't doing it. Texans defense is good. I understand why those picks were thrown when you have playmakers on defense playing, making plays in the preseason. That doesn't surprise me by any means.
Daniel Jones is hot trash.
But at the same time, like, people could understand why Daniel Jones threw those picks. You have people hyping up Justin Fields in preseason as well for underthrowing receivers, overthrowing receivers, making wrong reads. So like people aren't looking at the right things, in my opinion. I think now, if you were telling Daniel Jones isn't as bad as that people think. So I wouldn't.
Now, if you told me Drew Lock was throwing the ball, I might have Neighbors a little higher.
Hey, shit. I think that I threw this tweet out there. Well, let's talk about it just for a second before we move on to the next one. I was saying, what if Bailey Zappi beats out Joe Milton for QB3 in New England and they cut him and then he links up with Jalen Hyatt in New England or New York?
No.
Big arm, make big plays. Come on, baby. Come on. That's a good one. Drop it in the comments. Let me know. You guys know. Volunteer. All right.
Next trade. And Wendy love Joe Milton.
That's a big dude. Like, if I wanted anyone to back up my quarterback or potentially play and take hits, it's Joe Milton. That's exactly what a quarterback should look like. Like, when you got guys like Spencer Rattler as your backup, no thank you. All right. I would rather have Joe Milton over Spencer Rattler.
Future starter for the Saints, Spencer Rattler?
and future starter for the Giants, Joe Milton. Thank you very much. Good night. Amen. All right. Next trade, we got side 1, Tony Pollard, side 2, Raheem Mostert, and a 2025 second.
I'm assuming this is a dynasty trade.
This is a dynasty trade. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll take Tony. I like the Tony Pollard side. Raheem Mostert probably has this year, maybe half a year with Jalen Wright. That second can be a decent player next year, but again, it's a flyer. Right? If it's a early second, maybe you get a startable piece for fantasy. Again, I think Pollard's going to be fine for the next 2 years, if not then some. So I think he's going to be a starting running back. I think he'll be an RB1, RB2 for your fantasy team this year. Next year, he'll be a flex play in 2026, and then he's probably done. So I'll take him over Raheem Mostert, who's an RB2 this year and a second round pick next year that's going to be maybe a flex play.
This is a tough one because I really don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to be a hypocrite, but I'm probably going to. So Dustin, give me some time to think on how I want to say this.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Mostert side. And I know this is just how we are valuing Tony Pollard differently. So yeah. I'm not saying that you're wrong, Dustin. I understand exactly where you're coming from on this. But I would probably take the Mostert and the pick side. I feel like Mostert, he's going to have a blow up week, and you could probably get a second and a third for him. If you don't believe in him long term, which I don't, I think he's going to have a really good year this year. But if I'm looking at it from a dynasty perspective, I'll wait till he has one of those big blow up weeks and then trade him when the value is high to a team that really feels like they need another running back, and just extract that value. And then I've got more picks that I can use as ammunition to make bigger and better trades if I feel like I need to make moves as the year is going on.
We have another comment in the comment section, a question. So I'll make this quick. I think I'm going to stay true, and I'll say Raheem Mostert in a 25 second. But it's really tough because if I'm wrong, I like to always contemplate. I could be wrong, and not many people will say that they're going to stand by all their take, but I'm not perfect. So if I'm wrong on Tony Pollard, Raheem Mostert's probably going to 100% be done after this year with the Jalen Wright pick, 100%. So if I'm contending, the opportunities in the games that Raheem Mostert's going to play, I think I'd rather have Raheem Mostert this season alone over Tony Pollard. And then the fact that they have the 2025 second on top of it. But if I'm wrong, I don't think that Raheem Mostert being a roster clogger next year and the 2025 second, this class for the RB is it could be a late second. It could be a mid second. And I don't know where these RBs, the top ones, are going to be going. There could be 5 RBs next year that all go in the first round because there's that many good ones. And then the drop off could be that intense. And that in 2020 or seconds in general, drafting RBs, it's such an inconsistent rate. You got Kendra Millers, you got, Trey Sermons of the past, people RBs in the second round. It's very hard to hit on those. And so it's a tough one, but I think I'd just try to make lightning strike and with that 2025 second with Raheem Mostert this year. So that'd be the best way to put it. But we do have a comment from our friends over at Twitch. What should be the second overall pick? CMC is for sure going first. Well, I actually in my work draft last night had the second overall pick, and I picked Breece Hall. And I even changed my name to Bed Bath and Bijan beforehand, hoping that they'd snipe me. So I had the choice of CMC and Breece Hall, but it didn't work. Pick CMC first off. And honestly, I can't be mad when you got Breece Hall walking away from it.
Yeah, I agree. It's Breece Hall way over Bijan. I think the Tyler Algier stuff is true. I think he's going to get plenty of work cut into his workload. For me, it's Breece Hall. Or if you're in a full PPR league, I think I could go CD Lamb. I'm not worried about the holdout at this point. So those are the two guys I'm looking at number 2.
Yeah, I'm going to say CD Lamb for me. I'm not worried about the holdout at all. Ooh. Jerry Jones will do the right thing at the end of the day. And it's just, who else are they going to throw to? Who they're not. I know we're just talking about Zeke a little bit here with these running backs, but I don't believe in Zeke having a ton of high-end upside this year. So I feel like they're going to be passing the ball a ton. And I love Jake the Snake Ferguson. That's my boy, but he is not going to be eating into CeeDee Lamb's target share all that much. So it's just going to be CeeDee Lamb all freaking day again this year. And that's why I'm going to take him as my second overall pick.
It is a full PPR as well. I don't know if that changes your opinion at all, Dustin.
I think it just depends on what you think you can get in the second round. So if you take CeeDee Lamb, can you get running back in the second round, or are you going to go 0 RB? And how do you feel drafting that way? I think it comes to comfort in your draft and how much you can flex. I think I'd rather go. I think I'd still go Breece Hall because I think I can pick wide receivers better in the third, fourth round than I can running backs.
Bingo. That's exactly it. In this draft, I was honestly thinking, I'm like, I wonder if my work colleagues are going to think that Jamar Chase is actually going to sit out for a long time, or CeeDee Lamb's going to sit out a long time.
Yeah.
And I could draft Breece Hall at 2, and then somehow by the stroke of luck, it's an 8 team. So there's a chance that they could have fell.
Yeah.
They didn't take the bait. He went at the end. They both went at the end of the first round. I was wrong, but I was hopeful. I was hoping that one of them would have fell back to me, but Gibbs did fall back to me. So people were a little cautious about his injury. Ooh. So I paired that up and got Breece Hall and Jahmyr Gibbs. So one more, he's saying 10-man and 2 teams are picking QB first. Started a work league and I don't think they played before.
That's huge. You got to know your league. And right, if they're going to take a Mahomes or an Allen or a Hurts in the first, who's going to come back to you in the second in that snake draft? That's my question in between Breece and CeeDee Lamb. I don't think there's any chance Breece Hall gets back to you. I think there's a 5% chance CeeDee Lamb gets back to you in that league.
I think that, like, if you went Breece Hall at 2, there's a really good chance someone maybe like A.J. Brown fell back to you. I think A.J. Brown's going to have a huge year this year. Even, like, I picked later in the draft, I picked Scary Terry last night as, like, my first bench spot. And I was like, if anyone's going to not produce this year, I got literally people – they passed on T. Higgins. They passed on George Pickens. My wide receiver room is stacked now. I like whatever. But like if Scary Terry doesn't hit, I like at least like I have other options. There's so many other options at wide receiver than compared to what running back this year. So
yeah.
Then the Dotson trade happened, and now he's like primed to be this year's DJ Moore. So
and I do also think taking the Breece Hall at 2. You continue that run. So maybe 3, 4 get scared and they start taking running backs where maybe they should take a CeeDee Lamb. So if you take, it goes McCaffrey, you take Breece Hall, third place goes, well, I got to take a running back because they're all going so fast. They take Bijan. All of a sudden, fourth goes, well, I got to take a running back. They take Jahmyr Gibbs or one of these other guys. And then quarterback, and all of a sudden you're in the second round and the second round starts and CD, Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, they're all still there. And right, A.J. Brown, one of those guys can fall to you. To me, if you take CeeDee Lamb, there's no way Breece Hall gets back. Then people go, I can take whoever I want because there's no run. You don't create that position scarcity. So that's why I go Breece Hall over CeeDee. I do think CeeDee is worthy of that pick, but I think in that league, especially with how wonky, if they're inexperienced players, you can take advantage of. There's a slight chance that CeeDee Lamb falls back to you. I don't think there's any chance Breece Hall does.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. Let's go speed round for the rest of these trades because this has been a great episode. Dustin, great guest. Come back anytime, brother. We've been really breaking it down. I feel like we've been getting a lot of info out, a lot of good knowledge for our viewers. So let's go through a speed round, wrap this thing up. We just got over an hour. Let's do it. Tyjae Spears in a 2024 mid-second for a 2025 first. Dustin.
Give me the first.
Take the first as well.
All right. Universal. We're all going 2025 first. I currently own Pollard, Brian Robinson, and a 2025 second for Tyjae Spears and a 2025 third. Dustin.
Brian Robinson and a second for Tyjae Spears and a third. I guess give me Spears in the third. It's pretty close though.
Yeah, it's pretty close. The fact that you own Pollard, I'll take the handcuff in the third. And hopefully maybe I can pivot off if Pollard goes down and maybe I can get more out of Tyjae Spears. So I'll take Spears in the third.
All right, I'll be the guy. I'll be the hypocrite here. I think I'll take Brian Robinson in the second just because, like, the second, you could lightning in a bottle again. And Brian Robinson, he's going to be a thorn in the side for a long time. So dynasty asset wise, maybe he's not like the worst thing, but definitely moving from the third to the second, that would intrigue me, and just kind of holding on to Pollard, maybe trying to trade him somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the opposite side. I currently own Robinson, Tony Pollard, and a 2025 third for Austin Eckler in a 2025 second.
I'll take Pollard in the third.
Yeah,
I
I'd
think
take
I'll go Eckler
Pollard
in
in
the
the third as well.
Yeah, I'll go Eckler in the second too. I'll go that explosive route, and then I'll even take lightning in a bottle right there. I'm moving on up to the east side with the deluxe apartment in the sky. All right, this is not very lightning round, Dick. All right, Tyjae Spears and a 2025 first for Kenneth Walker.
Ooh. Give me Spears in the first. With how this running back class is supposed to be coming out next year, give me the first, and I'll take the hit maybe on production, the little bit of hit on production this year.
Yeah, I'll take Spears in the first. Hopefully, I can flip Spears. Maybe if he has a good game or two for a second or a third. You're missing out on Kenneth Walker, but Charbonnet is still there getting into the backfield, and that first should be a high value pick next year.
Oh man, this is really tough because like Kenneth
Very
Walker
tough.
to me is like he's like the RB13 in my opinion. He's like the prime RB13 candidate. And so is he like gonna would I give up a 2025 first and Tyjae Spears for my RB2? Yes, I think I would rather take Kenneth Walker. Yeah, if it was 2026 first or 2024, I wouldn't, but 2025 is a lighter draft class enough. I think I'd rather take the immediate impact Kenneth Walker. Tyjae Spears in his 2025 second for Rashee Rice. I will definitely go Rashee Rice here.
Same.
Yeah, I'll go Rashee Rice. Yeah.
That is the wide receiver 1 for Patrick Mahomes. That is the wide receiver 1 for Patrick Mahomes. I will repeat it. There you go.
Yeah, this year until next year when he's suspended for 6 games.
And that's okay. That's fine. You know, trade him again next year. Trade him halfway through this year. Just get Rashee Rice on your teams. Tony Pollard.
I want to.
Go ahead.
I want to say I agree with Jamie in the comments. I think Walker can be a top 5 running back this year as well.
Ooh.
I think he's top 10 for sure. I think he flirts in that 5 through 7 range.
You talk me into it. Easy peasy. I'm on your side now. There you go. Tony Pollard at 2025 first for James Cook.
Pollard in the first.
Pollard
easily.
in the first. Easy. The jinx.
Easy.
There's some James Cook people out there that will bite you on that. We'll fight you on
I'm
that
a Bills
hardcore.
fan, so
Hey, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. They can take
the
James Cook from me then.
Yeah.
Ray Davis, baby. Believe. I believe in Ray Davis. Yes, sir. All right. Tony Pollard and a 2025 second for DeAndre Swift and a 2025 third.
Pollard in the second.
I'll take Swift in the third.
I think I will take Swift in the third as well. That's hard. I think that's the only one I'm not moving on up for because I don't know. I think if I can trade DeAndre Swift at the right time this year, I might get 2 seconds out of him still. If I can find the right person. I'm gonna hold hope on that. So maybe I'm right. I could be wrong, but that seems too easy for me. But that was the last trade. Do we have any other trades in the comment section? Okay. Fun B-Rob Facts had a 60% opportunity share coming off of getting shot in the leg, unfortunately. He was 12th in total touchdowns, 14th in receiving yards, 25th in receptions, RB1 in yards per receptions, RB 22 points per game, RB 14 points per opportunity, RB 24 breakaway runs, RB 7 in yards created per touch. Now he has a rushing quarterback, so less stack boxes. Very good point, Jamie. Very good point.
Don't sleep on Brian Robinson this year.
What stat shows me a better offensive line? That's what I want to see. You're not making bad points at all. Like there's a lot of reasons. Like we talked about, Brian Robinson's a great fantasy option. It's just like, is he gonna win you a league? Like he's gonna get you 10 to 12. Like he's probably your favorite like 0 RB candidate just for consistency. But like,
Yeah.
I think Austin Eckler's going to have a few games that he's like 16 points. Like he'll put up some league winning games this year, in my opinion. I don't know if Brian Robinson does that for me. So you gotta go.
Yeah,
Great point.
Brian Robinson's a set it and forget it flex play for me every week in fantasy football.
Yeah, that's it. So, Dustin, can you remind every one of our viewers out there about our beautiful, beautiful, beautiful partnership at Trophy Smack?
Oh, I was going to tell them about our other great sponsor over
That's
at
all right.
Dynasty.
We got so many sponsors. So many people want to partner with TradeBlocked, baby, because this is where the party's at. So tell us all about Dynasty Nerds.
Yes. Yeah. You heard us talking about them all episode long here with their values. But do you want to take your dynasty teams to a championship? And do you want to stack championships for years to come? Then you need to hear about Club Fantasy's newest partnership, Dynasty Nerds. Dynasty Nerds is one of the most trusted sources for both dynasty advice and dynasty tools. Their Nerd Score helps identify rookies with high ceilings and longevity to keep you in contention for years. If what you're looking for is film on incoming rookies, then look no further than their All 22 film room. They even have a dynasty trade calculator that can help you find values throughout the season and better understand how to value players across an ever-changing landscape. These are just a few of the tools that they offer. Head to dynastynerds.com to see for yourself, choose from one of their subscription plans, and at checkout, enter the code CLUBFANTASY, that's all one word, to save 15% on your subscription. Once again, go to dynastynerds.com and use promo code CLUBFANTASY to get 15% off.
Beautiful. That was lovely. That was absolutely
Thank you.
lovely. Join the Nerd Herd. Nerd Herd, baby. How you doing? But Dustin, thank you so much for coming.
Yes, thank
by.
you for coming.
Why don't you go ahead and grace us and tell us all about your new podcast, Bridge the Gap?
Yeah, I got a new podcast. It's Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern live. It's called Bridge the Gap. You can find it on my Twitter or BTG_podFF on Twitter. It's a conversation-based podcast where we talk about different topics in the football universe. So Tuesday we talked about how do we handle preseason games, what information we should and shouldn't take away. This Tuesday coming up, I've got Steven Johnson. So Steven Roto, Fantasy Cares. We're talking about football cards and fantasy football and how you can utilize the information from one to help you in the other. So we're talking about different conversations, different topics. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. We've talked salary cap leagues. We've talked hype. We've talked IDP. We're going to talk about how to admit you're wrong. We're going to talk about, starting out in fantasy. We're going to talk about how to make fantasy fun. We're talking about these topics just to help you have more information and help you just be more well-rounded. We're not doing this podcast is great to get information. We try to give you some, but it's more of a conversation based. So Bridge the Gap every Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. You can find us on YouTube. Love you guys to tune in. Hit that like and subscribe. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always fun to cut it up with you two Wisconsin guys. Through Wisconsin guys on the podcast is always great.
Yes, sir. And surprisingly, we haven't thrown any back. We haven't thrown any back this episode, but we have to. We definitely thank you so much for coming and being a part of this. So we have to, in return, make an appearance on Bridge the Gap at some point, and
we'll get you guys
make an appearance. So, but if you guys haven't already, if you guys missed at the earlier part of the episode, I am a part of Pros with Joe's charity campaign, and if you guys want to go ahead and co-manage a team with your boy Hoov, it is $1 for an entry, and it is going towards the Alzheimer's Association. So, whatever counts, $1 towards it. And you guys can win a raffle. The winner gets an Optimus Fantasy t-shirt, a part of the other team that I'm with. And if we hit like 500, I'm going to do an exclusive Hoov Tube hoodie. We hit $100, so I'm doing the Fu Manchu until Aaron and the Jets lose their first week. So let's do something great. Come join. And as well, make sure you guys are going and buying some raffle tickets for Women of Fantasy so we can further some women's careers in sports, because that's number one most important thing. So $5, you could win a Jalen Hurts jersey. You could win a Jason Kelce, Kelly Green jersey. So $5 could be the cheapest jersey you've ever gotten. And honestly, even as a 49ers fan, those are some damn cool jerseys. So go ahead and buy some.
Yep. And
link in bio. Link in my bio, by the way, as well. Sorry to cut you off, Dustin. Link in my bio for Pros.
No worries.
Go ahead and do that.
Yeah,
Dustin.
yeah. Before we sign off this evening, make sure you're following and subscribing to Club Fantasy FFL at Club Fantasy FFL on Twitter, and the Women of Fantasy Football at women_of_FF, and make sure you're following along with all of Club Fantasy's shows. We've got some great content every single day of the week. On Mondays, we've got Mocking with the Stars. On Tuesday, the Masterclass. On Wednesday, we've got Women of Fantasy Football. On Thursday, or no, I'm sorry, Wednesday, doubleheader. Don't miss it. You also have the flagship show of No Punt Intended. On Thursday, you've got us, TradeBlocked, and you've also got the Mock Girl Summer coming up right after us at 10 p.m. Eastern. On Friday, we've got Mock It Like It's Hot, and on Sunday, it's the Dynasty After Party. So make sure you're going out and checking out all this great show. We got tons of content out here just to make you ready and on top of your game for this fantasy season. And Dustin, I just want to say thank you once again for joining us. It was a blast having you on. I think we're going to have you back after the season's over so we can have one specific episode just for you to revisit all this great content we had today. Because lots of good stuff, and I feel like we could have talked for another hour very easily. So thanks again. Any last words, Hoov, before we sign off for this evening?
Ah!
All right. Well, we'll see you next week, folks. Enjoy the preseason games we got here. Regular season coming up right around the corner.